Hey guys, and welcome back to
MegaJordinary.
So today's case is a very tragic case, and it is a case that shook Iceland and changed Iceland forever. So before we begin, I want to give our usual disclaimer that we have obtained all this information from various sources on the internet that are readily available for the masses. We are simply relaying all this information and retelling it in our own words in order to raise awareness and for educational purposes. We do not intend to offend or upset any of the people involved in this case, the victim and the victim's family. So, without further ado, let's talk about a crime that shook Iceland, and that is the murder of Birna Brjansdottir. I also just want to add in that we have looked up the pronunciations of everybody in this video and of the towns and stuff like that, and we are doing our best to try and pronounce as closely as possible. It is quite hard to pronounce things in Icelandic. We are Irish, so please just bear with us. We are doing our best. Birna Brjansdottir was just 20 years old when her life was tragically taken in January 2017. Birna was from the suburbs of Reykjavik, Iceland, and Birna's family consisted of her dad, Brian, her mother, Sigurlaug, and her brother, Logi Fanner. Birna was described by her friends and family as being a confident, outgoing girl that had a quick-witted sense of humour. They said that Birna was very carefree and optimistic. She was a big music lover. She loved absolutely every genre of music that you can think of.
Iceland is a Nordic island nation famous for its beautiful landscape that consists of volcanoes, hot springs and lava fields. The population of Iceland in present day 2021 is 344,175. Iceland actually has the lowest population density in all of Europe at just 3 people per kilometre. Iceland is considered to be the safest country in the world, and this is why it makes what happened to Birna on that fateful winter night even more shocking.
In Iceland in the winter time, daylight hours normally fall between 11 AM to 3 PM, so that means they only get 4 hours of daylight a day. On the 13th of January 2017, Birna had finished her shift at her job at the Hag Kaup department store, and this was in Reykjavik. So once she was finished work, she then met up with her friends in a local pub, and they played some card games here, which was very common for the friend group. And at approximately midnight, they headed to a club called Hura, which is also in Reykjavik city centre. Birna's friends said that they decided to leave the club at around 2 AM, but Birna wanted to stay on a little bit longer. And Birna was then seen leaving this particular club at 5 AM, which was the club's closing time. Now, as we discussed, Iceland is considered the safest country in the world, so this was not unusual behaviour for a woman to leave a club at a certain time and walk home alone. It was minus 9 degrees Celsius when Birna embarked on her journey home that night. Absolutely freezing.
CCTV captured Birna making a stop at a fast food takeaway to get a falafel pita, and then following this she started walking up Laugaver Street. It was clear that Birna was intoxicated from the footage, as she was seen dropping money and also bumping into a stranger. CCTV last captured Birna get into a red Kia car that had stopped beside her on the road at 5:25 AM. Birna's friend Maria grew concerned when Birna didn't show up for work on the Saturday morning, and Birna was always extremely punctual and always showed up on time for work. According to Maria, the girls had been best friends since they were at primary school. Maria and other friends had tried to get in touch with Birna, but was unsuccessful as her phone was off. Maria then alerted Birna's mother, but no one had seen or heard from Birna. On the evening of January the 14th, Birna's parents filed a missing persons report with the Lögreglan, which are the Icelandic police. Birna's mother made a post on Facebook appealing for anyone to come forward with sightings or any information on the whereabouts of Birna. This post was shared thousands of times.
The Icelandic police discovered that Birna's phone pinged at a tower at 5:50 AM on the morning of her disappearance before subsequently being turned off. This ping was in a port near Hafnarfjörður, just 6 miles away. It's reported that even with this information, the Icelandic police didn't think that Birna was in any danger or that she had come to any harm. And this was because Iceland was so safe after all. Birna's friends and family decided that they were going to go to this port town and knock on all the doors in and around the place and see if anybody had seen Birna or had any information about her at all. The media start reporting on Birna's case, and once this gained a lot of traction, it kicked the police into gear. The search for Birna became the biggest manhunt that Iceland had ever seen. When the manhunt kicked off, Birna had been missing for 36 hours. 775 volunteers participated in this search, with 685 members of the Ice SAR, 11 dogs, all from 71 different search and rescue organisations, and 50 different marine rescue units, all being involved. Two brothers who had volunteered in the search started looking specifically in the area where Birna's phone last pinged. There was an area at the harbour that was fenced off with 3 large oil tanks behind the fencing, and there was also a large rough patch of ground beside the oil tanks. And there was lots of scattered building supplies on this patch. The brothers decided that they would enter this area, and when they did, they found Birna's Doc Marten boots.
Divers immediately entered the icy waters, with drones hovering in the sky above them. Whilst this was happening, Icelandic police scoured through CCTV footage from the docks. In this footage, the red Kia car was seen coming into the harbour area at around 6 AM on January the 14th. The car parked beside a large fishing trawler, and the man was seen exiting from the passenger side. He appeared drunk, and he was captured walking onto a ship, and then the car sped off. Luckily, the licence plate was readable. They traced the car back to a local rental company. The company told police that the car had been hired out to a man named Thomas Olsen, a 25-year-old from Greenland who was working on the Polar Nanook. The car had been returned at around 1 PM on Saturday the 14th, and the company had rented it out again to a family. There was a strong chemical smell coming from it, and traces of blood on the back seat. Icelandic police had sent samples to Sweden for analysis. This is because the forensic lab in Iceland wasn't equipped for this.
So it was discovered that Thomas Olsen had been out drinking with his fellow crew member on that night. The crew member was called Nikolai Olsen, and they were drinking in bars in Reykjavik. Nikolai was the man that was seen exiting the vehicle from the passenger side and going on to the ship. Unfortunately, the Polar Nanook had set sail again on the afternoon of Saturday the 14th of January, so both men were out at sea at this point. They were no longer in Iceland or in Icelandic territory. The police force had to have big discussions and inevitably decided that the only way that they were going to get these men in and question them was if 4 Icelandic officers flew onto the Triton, which is a Danish warship, and sailed to Greenland. And in Greenland, they would pick up officers from there and go on to the Polar Nanook and arrest these men. This did not happen, however. So a Facebook page specifically for crew members on the Polar Nanook was stumbled upon by a journalist. Now, in this group, the journalist decided to message Thomas Olsen, speculating that he may have something to do with Birna's disappearance. Thomas Olsen showed this message from the journalist to the captain of the Polar Nanook, and the captain gave Thomas a sedative and told him that if he didn't have anything to do with it, why was he worried? After this discussion and this incident between Thomas and the captain of the ship, the captain decided that he was going to look more into the disappearance of Birna. And when he did, he immediately decided that he had to turn the ship around and head back to Iceland with the 2 men on board. The captain didn't want to cause any alarm and didn't want, Thomas Olsen and Nikolai to kind of twig that he was onto them and that he was bringing them back to Iceland in order to hand them over to the authorities. So he decided to turn off the Wi-Fi on the ship. and he told the crew that the engine had malfunctioned. On Wednesday, the 18th of January, the ship docked back in Hafnarfjörður, and the Icelandic counter-terrorism unit came on board. The men were then escorted off the ship and taken to the local police station. When in custody, both Thomas and Nikolai told investigators that 2 women got into the red Kia that night. But Nikolai was so drunk that he fell asleep and he didn't remember anything after that. Thomas then said that after he dropped Nikolai back at the ship, he decided to take the 2 girls that were in the vehicle into the back to mess around with them. He then said after he let the girls out of the vehicle nearby, and this was roughly an hour after dropping Nikolai back onto the ship. And as you can imagine, Thomas's story was very different from the mountain evidence that the Icelandic police had on the case.
Thomas's phone was turned off for around 4 hours after he dropped Nikolai back. Thomas was spotted buying cleaning products, clothing and bags in a local supermarket nearby. When asked about this by police, Thomas said that the cleaning fluid was used to remove vomit from the vehicle, but forensic testing showed that it actually was blood. CCTV didn't capture the car around the city until he had returned it the next day. He said this was because he was sleeping in the car, but the mileage said otherwise.
Thomas also had scratches all over his chest. He was examined by doctors when he was in custody. They also raided his cabin, which he was staying in when he was on board the Polar Nanook, and they actually found a serious amount of drugs. The drugs had a street value of 1.4 million. They also found Birna's driving licence in the ship bins. And forensic testing showed that Thomas's prints were all over the driving licence. Police eventually concluded that Nikolai was an innocent party and they released him from their custody after 2 weeks. But Thomas was kept in custody.
Sadly, on Sunday the 22nd of January, Birna's body had been found. 30 miles from the harbour, Birna's body was found on the edge of the water by a lighthouse. The autopsy showed that Birna was hit in the face and strangled, but her cause of death was ruled as drowning, and that it was likely that she was alive when she was dumped into the sea. Although Birna's body was naked, the autopsy did show that she wasn't sexually assaulted.
On the 30th of March, Thomas Olsen was charged for possession of drugs and the murder of Birna. And in August 2017, Thomas Olsen pled guilty to the drugs charges, but not to the murder of Birna. But even more evidence had mounted since his arrest, and they even found his fingerprints all over Birna's Doc Martens. So it was very, very obvious that he was the perpetrator. He eventually admitted that Birna was the only woman in the car with him that night, and he tried to say that it was actually Nikolai that drove off with Birna in the car. And it was him that was seen exiting the car, and he said he'd done this in order to urinate. He then said that Nikolai came back and collected him, but Birna was gone and she wasn't in the vehicle anymore. This was clearly a desperate attempt to try and look innocent and clear his name, but it was almost comical to the jury because the evidence was so mounted up at this stage. It was very clear, as we said, that he was the perpetrator.
In September that year, Thomas Olsen was sentenced to 19 years in prison by 3 judges. Birna's funeral was attended by 2,000 grieving family members, friends and locals. And lots of candle vigils were held around Iceland and Greenland.
Birna's death caused a lot of changes in Iceland. Apparently there was a Facebook group that used to offer, carpools and lifts home for the locals of Reykjavik and other Icelandic cities, and that has kind of ceased to exist and become less active because people are just more aware of their surroundings and more cautious since this tragedy. The Icelandic government has also installed lots more security cameras around the cities. There's just a lot more surveillance now, and this is in order to protect its citizens and prevent anything like this from happening again.
We are sending our deepest condolences to Birna's friends and family. We have linked all of our sources down below in the description. And that is it for today, guys. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on that little bell notification to be notified whenever we drop a video going forward. And we will see you in our next true crime video next week. Peace.
Bye guys.